In those days, it was difficult for people with physical disabilities to make a living, and they were forced to amuse the crowd by demonstrating their defects, on which both they and the businessmen made good money. Over time, people came to love the circus of freaks and got used to this bizarre spectacle. Traditionally, dwarves, giants, and even the overly obese were popular, which nowadays seems quite surprising. Many people are familiar with the story of Joseph Merrick, the Elephant Man, told in the David Lynch film of the same name. But few people know of other brilliant circus freak performers who have gone through a lot in their lives. Prince Randian, this strong-willed man, became world famous in 1932 when he starred in a small role in the movie Freaks. Snake Man, Caterpillar Man, as they called this actor with congenital tetramelia syndrome, a disease when born without arms and legs. He was born in British Guiana and was of Indian descent. His real name is unknown. Randian was also called the Cigarette Man because he really looked like a cigar and because he had this trick of twisting cigarettes. He married early and happily. His wife took care of his development, and soon the prince, thanks to the contraction of his abdominal muscles, learned to crawl around his chambers. In a short time he could draw and shave with his lips and tongue, learned to speak 4 languages fluently. The prince died at the age of 62, leaving behind 5 full-fledged children. The prince also had fellow unfortunates, people who were also born without any limbs. For example, one of the brightest entertainers of his time, Johnny Eck. He was born without legs or part of his spine. The boy learned to walk on his hands before his twin brother on his feet. At his peak, Joe was about 45 centimeters tall and in excellent health. In 1923, he began performing in the circus as a solo act, as an acrobat, and with magic tricks and clowning. He was also used in a sawing-off attraction. His twin brother worked as a manager. Johnny the King of Freaks and Half a Guy was his advertising nickname. Johnny's greatest hobby were made especially for him, miniature race cars. Johnny Eck died in 1991 at the age of 79, having lived a full life. Fannie Mealy was born in 1860 to an English immigrant family who had settled in Ohio. She would have been an ordinary girl, except for one but. She had what is known as Milroy's disease, a condition that causes fluid to accumulate in the feet. Although she weighed about 68 kilograms, she had to wear shoes, each pair of which was sewn from 3 goat skins. Fanny first went out in public in 1885. From her father, Fanny inherited a dowry in the amount of $5,000, a lot of money at the time. Fanny offered it at each of her performances to someone who would be willing to marry her. Eventually, such a man was found. Fanny worked in the circus until 1892, after which she returned to her husband and family and died unexpectedly the same year. With opposite problems to Fanny's, another famous member of the freak show, Isaac Spratt, nicknamed the Living Skeleton, was born. This man, born in 1841 in Massachusetts, was known for his incredible thinness. He grew up as a normal child until the age of 12, after which the boy began to lose weight dramatically. By the age of 44, he was 168 centimeters tall and weighed about 43 pounds. He was observed by many eminent specialists of the time, but no one could make any other diagnosis than general weight loss syndrome. He regularly ate twice as much food as the average healthy man, and always carried a flask of sweetened milk with him in case he suddenly became hungry. The man was twice married and raised 3 sons of average height and weight. Isaac died at the age of 46, having worked in freak shows for over 24 years. Mademoiselle Ella Harper, born in 1873 with a strange orthopedic anomaly. Ella's legs bent backward at the knee joint. The nature of this rare affliction is still unknown. Because the girl's knees looked backward and she was forced to walk on all 4 limbs, Miss Harper was easily nicknamed the Camel Girl. By 1886, Ella had been a star in the fashionable Mr. Harris Circus for 4 years. With her unique deformity, The girl received $200 a week, at that time enormous money. In every city where the show visited, the newspapers wrote extensively about the Camel Girl. After 1886, traces of Ella Harper are lost. She said in interviews that she was going to quit show business and get an education. Who knows, maybe she succeeded. So when you see people with the same disease, don't be scared. Charlotte Linda Vogel was born in Berlin in 1908. She was the only one in her family with this particular skin condition. Her ichthyosis was of a different type. Unlike that crocodile skin ichthyosis that many of her contemporaries suffered from, Charlotte's skin was not flaky, it was gray, thick, and formed deep creases. The girl performed in the circus under the direction of Carl Lothar, taking the pseudonym Susie Girl with Elephant Skin. Draped in a veil, Susie told the audience the stories of her life and mesmerized the crowd. Beginning in 1933, at the Chicago Fair, her performance was seen by more than 1 million curious spectators. In the 60s, Susie created her own show. She died a few days short of her 68th birthday in New York. Felix Wardia, on the other hand, became famous as a man with super elastic skin. The man skillfully stretched his skin from any part of his body to unimaginable sizes, and his fingers could bend both forward and backward. Felix suffered from Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, in which the human skin becomes incredibly elastic. He performed in many circuses in America. Fyodor Yevtushev, the dog-faced boy, was born in 1864 in St. Petersburg. Just like his father, Fyodor suffered from the rare disease hypertrichosis, as a result of which his body and face were completely covered in hair. In the history of medical observations since the Middle Ages, only about 50 cases of hypertrichosis have been reported worldwide. At first, the boy performed in Russia with his father, traveling to various cities. When his father passed away, Fyodor signed a contract with the famous American showman Barnum. According to an invented legend, in distant Kostroma, hunters found a wild boy who lived in a pit with his father. His father was quite wild, he had to be shot. The younger Yevtushev, however, was taken around the world with the circus, the greatest show on earth. The boy was forced to bark and growl at the spectator to enhance his resemblance to a dog. Medics were quickly interested in him and studied him, but by and large, they never understood anything. Nevertheless, Fyodor Yevtushev's name became a nickname and entered all biology textbooks as an example of atavism, i.e. a return to the ancestors. He died in 1904 of pneumonia in Greek Thessaloniki. But what would the circus do without bearded women? Alice Elizabeth Doherty was born in 1887 in Minnesota to an ordinary family with healthy, beautiful children. At birth, Alice's face was covered with silky blonde hair 2 inches long. Her parents were shocked by the news. The girl had congenital hypertrichosis, a condition extremely rare and unusual. At the age of 2, Alice Doherty started bringing money to her family. The demand quickly dictated the organization of large tours. In the Midwest, Alice was shown at exhibitions for a long period of time. In those days, it was common practice for promoters and family members to put on a show in a busy downtown and sell tickets, and then they would move on to the next town. By wandering from town to town, the Duarte family managed to earn a comfortable existence. At the age of 5, Alice's facial hair reached over 10 centimeters, and as a teenager, it was closer to 20 centimeters in length. Around 1910, Alice's family moved to Dallas, Texas. Here Alice received her pension in 1915 and was quite content with her life. She died June 13, 1933, at the age of 46. Myrtle Corbin is the only 4-legged woman in the world. Born in Cleburne, Texas in 1868, she lived a remarkably long life, considering her condition. For a full 60 years in her lifetime, she worked as a living exhibit at Barnum Church and was so popular that she earned $450 a week. At the age of 19, Myrtle was also married to a doctor named James Clinton Bicknell. Medical research showed that the 2 extra legs belonged to the lower part of an unformed Siamese twin, who could have been Myrtle's sister, both lower halves being fully functional. Proof of this were her children's 4 daughters and 1 son, with 3 children born from one set of organs and 2 from another. It is also known that only 1 leg worked properly for Myrtle. The 2 smaller legs that Myrtle said she could control were too weak, and her own second leg was misshapen. Thanks to her husband, a doctor, Myrtle has gone down in the history of science as one of the most amazing cases of human anatomy. She died on May 6, 1928, surrounded by family and friends. Signor Francesco Lentini was born in Sicily in 1889. He was the 12th and simultaneously the 12th and a half child in the family. His twin brother, consisting of 1 leg and a full set of genitals, was born as an appendage to Frank's spine. Doctors were reluctant to amputate the parasitic twin, fearing that it might end in paralysis for Francesco. The father and mother rejected the little cripple, and Lentini was brought up by his aunt, who soon sent him to a boarding school. There Lentini learned that there are those in the world who are much worse off than he is. Children born without legs, and this inspired him to work on himself. Frank learned not only to walk on 3 legs, but also to run, jump rope, ride a bicycle, and ride a horse. At the age of 8, Lentini, along with a crowd of Sicilian immigrants, found himself in America, where he joined the circus and immediately caused a sensation. The spectators were captivated by his wit and agility. The number with the 3rd foot hitting the soccer ball, while Lentini walked on the front 2, caused applause and cries of encore. With age, the very fact of physical abnormality receded into the background. Lentini was beloved by audiences and colleagues. The charm of the 3-legged man captivated a young lady named Teresa Murray. The couple married and raised 4 healthy children. Lentini continued to tour until his death, which came to him in 1966. For more than 40 years he worked in American circuses. His contemporaries respected Signor and Gentleman Francesco Lentini so much that they couldn't call him anything but the king behind his back. If you liked the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and write what you think about it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support is very important to me.